Welcome. In this video I'm going to show you how you can determine quantiles, which is a generalized term for things like quartiles, quintiles, deciles, percentiles, etc. It splits the data into k parts. So for example, if you want quartiles, you split it into 4. And how to do this with R and my stikpetR library. I'm using Jupyter Notebook for this, but all the R code should also work in, for example, RStudio. So these quantiles, for example, if you make it into quartiles, then it shows the values at 25%. So the quartile score is then showing that 25% of all the scores should have a value less or equal to that, and therefore 75% should have a value equal or above. This video will focus on how actually just obtain these values, not so much on how to interpret them and if you should be using them. To show you an example, I'll load in the GSS data from 2012, slightly adjusted. It's a big data frame I'm showing only the first 5 rows, but there are a lot more. But I also don't need all of the columns. I only need one, an ordinal field, and I'm going to be using accounting sci, which is short for accounting scientific, which are the responses to how scientific is accounting. Just to get a quick impression, we can use the table function from R, and it shows the counts for each of the possible categories. I actually want to keep all these different categories because they were not numeric, so I'm just going to put them in as one vector in order, and then I can start loading my stikpetR library. Of course, I've already installed it myself, but if you've never used my library, you can use the DevTools. If you haven't, and then first install DevTools, and then you can just download it from my GitHub account. After installation, it can be imported just as any other library. So for example, library stikpetR. And that should load the library. That has 2 functions of interest. ME for measures, and then quartiles, and similarly ME and then quantiles, depending on which you want to use. They both have similar inputs. Of course, you must feed it some data as a vector. The levels are optional. That's the coding. I'll be using that. Then you can specify which method you actually want to use. There's, I think, about 20 methods to choose from. You can also create your own, and then you can have to set the index method you want to use, what to do for the ones that are having a proportion less than 50%, and the index is a fraction, and what to do in that case if the index is an integer. And similarly for if it's above 50%. The quantile function has one additional parameter to set, which is the number you want to split it in. The default is 4, so by default it should give you the quartiles. If I run the ME quartiles, I'll simply feed it my ordinal field, I give it the coding, and as you can see, it returns not only the numeric values, but also the labels that went with that. The quantile function works very similar. It just returns it slightly different. It first gives you the numeric values for all the quantiles. It's actually quartiles, and there are 5, which is a little bit odd, but it's the 0th quartile, the 1st, the 2nd, which is the median, the 3rd quartile, and the 4th, which is the same as the maximum. So this one should be the same as the minimum. This one should be the same as the maximum. And again, here is the numeric value, and here is the label actually I went with it. Now, if it's not exactly one value, but it fits between, so for example, I've here a small example with just a few different scores. As you might see, it actually nicely returns then in the text that it's between this value and the next value. Alright, and that's how you can use my function. I hope this was helpful.